I came into this world made different. I realized right away something was off with me, though for the life of me, I didn't know what. Others seemed to row together, not me. They were made so smooth they could just row right along, not me. They mocked me for my rough edges, my immovable stances, while they rode along with every whim and desire of their heart. I blame God for making me different. I was an unmovable force, apparently a lower cut than the rest, an outcast. Why could I just not fit in? It seemed they were so free to do as they please. Why did I have to be different than the rest? I felt rejected, inadequate, an experiment gone wrong, an outsider that could only look into the world, yet truly never be a part of the world. The tides would come in, the tides would go, carrying away many of the high rollers, never to be seen again. Where did they go? Only heaven above knows. Then one day it finally dawned on me. I was made square and never to row. My rough edges took the force of the tide and kept me upright. My foundation was strong. I was unmovable through it all. I finally realized at long last my cursing had been a blessing in disguise. Just because I didn't row didn't mean I was a reject after all. I thank the Lord in heaven above for making me different after all. We've all felt it, haven't we? That awkward moment when you're trying to fit into a place, a group, or an expectation that just doesn't seem to work. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It's uncomfortable, frustrating, and sometimes it makes us feel like we don't belong. And in this world, there's a lot of those round holes out there that are trying to shape people into something they're just not. Now, for some of you, the round hole might be a perfect version of what society thinks you should be. Clean cut, conventional, perhaps not a tattoo in sight, and certainly no piercings. Who would ever want any of that? Or maybe it's about meeting some standard of success, fitting into a clique, or adhering to a set of rules that seem too tight, too rigid for who you truly are. You feel like an outsider. You feel like you do not belong. You're a square peg, and society's got nothing but round holes. They got their rules, their dress codes, their holier-than-thou stairs. Let me tell you something, though. Jesus did not row with the pearl clutchers. You know, he hung out with the misfits, the outcasts, the ones who did not fit the mold. And today we're going to see how he's got a seat at his table for every square peg out there, including you. And oh, by the way, you circles, you are invited too. Jesus and the rough crowd. Let's just start with the Bible, not the fluffy stuff, but the raw, real stories. Matthew chapter 9, we're going to start reading with the 9th verse. And Jesus went on from there, and he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," he told him, and Matthew got up and followed him. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. But when the Pharisees saw it, they asked the disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said, "It's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." So here we see a scene. Jesus is chilling at a tax collector's house. Now think of tax collectors back then like shady loan sharks of today. They're covered in ink and attitude. The religious elite, the Pharisees, see him eating with these sinners, and guess what? They lose their minds. They're like, "Why is your teacher hanging with these people?" They sneer. Jesus fires back. It's not the healthy who need a doctor, but it's actually the sick. I didn't come for the righteous. Now he's saying, I'm here for the ones you're looking down on, the ones with a few scars, a few stories, and maybe a little too much swagger for your liking. Look at Matthew here, a tax collector. I sure wouldn't have wanted his job. He was looked down on. A shady-looking character with a bunch of sinners hanging at his house. Yet Jesus says, "Come be my disciple," and picks him. Then strolls to Matthew's house and eats and hangs out with Matthew and the wild friends he has. What about the rest of the crew Jesus rode with? Fishermen, a lot of them. He meets Peter for the first time in Luke 5:8. But Simon Peter saw this. He fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Go away from me, for I am a sinful man." You know, a loudmouth fisherman, Peter, who'd probably have a skull tat and a nose ring if he lived today. Why would you say something like that? Well, just about everybody I ever met that was in the Navy, I guarantee you they got a tattoo. I don't know why, but they do. Just about every single one of them that I've ever met. Peter, even though he was one of Jesus' closest disciples, failed Jesus at the most critical moment when Jesus was being betrayed by Judas, and later would go on to deny Jesus 3 times. They were just like the peers and the tattooed ones today who didn't fit. Yet Jesus just did not tolerate them. He chose them to be his crew. His what? His disciples. How many of you, if I can meet you personally, will say, "You know what? I just don't fit in anywhere. No matter what I do, no matter how hard I try, I just don't fit." Being raised a preacher's kid, I can relate. I told you a little bit about my story the last few weeks. Nonstop bullying and beatdowns growing up. I can remember this one time, a kid a grade ahead of me called me behind a tree. And I went back there. I didn't know what he wanted. And this guy, he slugs me straight in the face for no reason. And I remember I ran away from him and I heard him yell, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Come back, I'll apologize." Now, me being the naive kid I was at that time, I went back under the tree for guess what? Seconds. He held out his hand and in a gesture of shaking my hand, grabbed my hand and slugged me in the face again. I went back for seconds. Boy, was I a smart kid or what back then? Glutton for punishment. I look at it now. I think, who in the world was that guy? I don't know. I was laughed at by his group of cohorts. Now, I'm not here to tell you a sob story about my past. I know what it's like being a square, though, or the odd man out. When you're different than everyone else, people feel, you know what, that they've got to exploit you. They want to make an example of you just because you do not fit in. That day behind the tree, though, set me on a course in my life of never taking a beat down again. I began, as I told many of you to do, I lift weights. I took martial arts for a while, and I vowed to change my circum. They were smuggled grace. I went